Kia ora tātou, Acting Vice-Chancellor, Excellencies, distinguished guests. It's my honour and great pleasure to follow such a group of distinguished diplomats and academics as we celebrate 50 years of diplomatic relationships between New Zealand and Chile. I have two roles today, and I promise to be short. The first is to highlight Education New Zealand Manapou ki te ao's involvement in supporting these relations and our hopes and ambitions for future development. In my time as Chief Executive of Education New Zealand, I've been very happy to see the development of increasing education links between our two countries. This has encompassed government-to-government relations and cooperation agreements, research and academic exchange programs, a shared commitment to the development of global citizens amongst our students, and increasing scholarship exchange programs, including our very own Prime Minister's scholarships to Latin America. Sticky page. When I joined the Minister recently in Santiago just 4 months ago, we were there to let all of our education contacts know that our borders were reopening and that we were looking forward to welcoming international students from Chile back into New Zealand. We were warmly received, and I sense we're entering a period where both countries will be seeking to extend this warmth through further development of relations. Education New Zealand Manapou ki te ao will continue to facilitate government-to-government contact and exchange. We will work closely with our education providers to assist in any way we can to help them further develop their relationships with Chilean education institutions, and we will support activity to encourage greater exchange between students in our two countries. Both of our countries have come through a recent difficult period. There will be challenges ahead, but with goodwill and commitment on both sides, I know we can build a stronger and more resilient future together. I believe the education sector will be a vital part of this process, and Education New Zealand is ready to play its part. My second role is I have the great pleasure to introduce our Minister of Education, the Honourable Chris Hipkins, and invite him to say a few words to mark the occasion. Minister.
Nā mihi nui ki a koutou katoa, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Good afternoon, everybody. It is my great privilege to welcome you here to the New Zealand Parliament and to be part of this occasion as we celebrate 50 years of Chile and New Zealand having resident diplomatic presence in each other's capitals. And diplomatic relations, of course, that go back much further than that. Santiago was the first Latin American capital in which New Zealand established an embassy, 11 years before we opened our next post in the region, in Mexico City. And Chile has continued to be one of our closest partners in this part of the world. I was privileged to be part of the Latin American edition of the anniversary celebrations in June this year. I was in Santiago leading an education delegation offshore for the first time since the global pandemic began. That experience has reinforced for me just how much our relationship has evolved over time, from one based primarily on trade and economic opportunities to one that encompasses so much more than that. As Pacific nations, we have significant shared history. Our connections go back thousands of years to Polynesian kinship, and the ties between Māori and Rapa Nui remain a very special link. The Pacific now joins us through our common interests as members of APEC, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, our interest in being part of the Pacific Alliance alongside Chile, and our shared interest in peace, security, and prosperity in the wider Indo-Pacific region. The direct air connection through LATAM means that we are now closer than many may think. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, we refer to Te Moana Nui a Kiwa, the Pacific Ocean that links our countries, as the blue Pacific continent. The values we embrace as guardians of our environment resonate with the turquoise foreign policy of the Chilean government, the one that seeks to strengthen cooperation on protecting the environment and the ocean regionally and globally. A close relationship is, of course, dependent on enduring connections. Our people-to-people links stretch back many, many years. And New Zealand's been pleased to welcome many Chileans for tourism, for study, to work, and to live. Chile and New Zealand have a long-standing education relationship, and it's these study links that I'd like to take a moment to highlight. In 2019, before the pandemic, New Zealand welcomed nearly 1,200 Chilean students to its education institutions. 89 New Zealand students have been awarded Prime Minister's scholarships for Latin America for programs in Chile, representing a fifth of the total scholarships for Latin America awarded since 2016. This number, although small, has grown, and I hope the relaunch of the scheme post-COVID will see it continuing to grow. I note that the groups travelling to Chile in the near future include Te Pukenga students who will take part in a summer program at the University of Santo Tomas to learn about macroeconomics and climate change challenges in the region. A group of agricultural students from Massey University will head to Chile next month, visiting 3 cities to learn about primary production, genetics, and horticulture. Agriculture and agri-tech are shared interests with Chile. This group will learn how Chile and New Zealand can keep working together and learning from each other. There are many other examples of the close relationship between our two countries through education. From 2017 to 2019, under the English Open Doors program, 60 English language teachers from the Araucani region spent a month at the University of Waikato's Pathways College. While I was in Chile earlier this year, the Chilean Kiwi alumni board members, Carolina Cuellar, presented me with an advance copy of her book, Bridges Over the Pacific, about these English teachers' experiences in New Zealand, which was released in mid-June. The Beka Semaya Rula program enabled young high school graduates to study English and train at New Zealand institutions before working on farms for the remainder of their 12-month visa. And under the bilateral working holiday scheme, 60 of the 1,000 places available annually to young Chileans are ring-fenced for agricultural scholarships. Our hosts this afternoon at this event are a prime example of the connection between the two countries and the role that education plays. The Latin America Centre for Asia-Pacific Excellence, known as CAPE, was established in 2017 and is hosted by Victoria University of Wellington. It's a consortium of 4 universities: Victoria University of Wellington, the University of Otago, the University of Auckland, and the University of Waikato. Its mission is to enhance New Zealand's economic, trade, political, and cultural relationships in the region. It does this by increasing New Zealand's knowledge of Latin America, which better prepares New Zealanders to do business and to engage in the region. Impressive work by many people on both sides of the Pacific. In my recent visit to Chile, I was able to experience for myself the strong bonds between our two countries. My aim was to take the reconnecting message to our important country partners and to make it clear that New Zealand's border is now reopened, and that we're ready once again to welcome international students here to Aotearoa, New Zealand. But equally important was the opportunity to meet and to talk with educators, officials, and alumni in each of the places that I had the opportunity to visit. In Santiago, I was delighted to sign a new education cooperation agreement between our ministries of education. Alongside that, Education New Zealand signed an education cooperation agreement with the Council of Rectors of Chilean Universities. Both arrangements will increase our strong links in education, research and mobility. I also enjoyed meeting Chilean alumni at a dinner with the board of the Chilean Kiwi Alumni Association. Learning about their experiences in New Zealand and the positive impact that it's had on their lives really highlighted how the social, cultural and economic benefits of welcoming Chilean students to New Zealand benefit us all. It's clear that they made great contributions to our classrooms when they were students and representatives of Chile here in New Zealand, and they're now great ambassadors for New Zealand in Chile. Some of the students are now university academics, both in Chile and abroad, where they teach and inspire future leaders. Some continue to work alongside New Zealand companies, thanks to the positive connections they formed during their study here. Since returning to New Zealand, there's been further discussion between our two countries around the future of education engagement between us. And I was pleased to learn that two Chilean academics who I visited whilst in Chile are travelling to New Zealand to look at commercial edtech opportunities available here. I mentioned the Prime Minister's scholarships for Latin America earlier, and before I finish, I'd also like to take a moment to remind everyone that after a 2-year pause due to the global pandemic, this year we're delighted to open applications for the Prime Minister's scholarships for Latin America once again. The scholarships are available for both short-term and long-term programs, including study abroad and exchange, internships, postgraduate study and language programs. Applications for the August 2022 round are now closed, and Education New Zealand are currently reviewing the current round of applications to the scheme. However, when the next round opens in early 2023, I ask you to encourage students to take advantage of the opportunity to study in Chile. In closing, it's clear that Aotearoa New Zealand and Chile share a very close relationship, and that in the long term, the relationships developed by inbound and outbound students and by important academic and research cooperation expand into diplomatic, business and trade partnerships that support the growth of both of our countries. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Minister, for those generous remarks. Can we do have a limited time available for questions. So if you would like to make a question, please, you can see a microphone here in the middle. Please quickly come up to the microphone and form an orderly queue behind it if there's more than one of you. We ask that you state your name, your affiliation if you have one that you want to identify with, and that you ask a question, not make a statement. Thank you very much. So would anyone like to come up? Let's not be shy. That was very easy. Minister, well, thank you just personally for your support for the relationship, for coming to, for going to Chile in June. I was honoured to join the delegation, and I think we're all very grateful to you for hosting this event for us in Parliament. It's a beautiful building. It's lovely to see it full, and above all, for continuing the momentum of bilateral educational ties. We'll report back to you on the insights of the day, and we'll share with your officials the recording of the video you are producing. Thank you very much for coming.